What does it really take to start over, not just in a new country, but in a new chapter of your life? In today's episode, we talk about courage, reinvention, and what happens when you stop waiting for the perfect moment and finally choose for yourself. Living abroad, it's about learning how to pivot, take risks, and trust that there is more waiting for you on the other side of fear.
You have to be willing to take risks, because if you don't, you're never going to live the life that you want to live. That's really the main takeaway, because otherwise you're going to keep living a life you're not happy with. Sometimes things do not turn out the way you planned or the way you thought, and you have to just kind of pivot and be like, okay, well, this didn't work out, so let's go to plan B or plan C or plan D. Let's just do something different.
But living abroad also changes how you see time, priorities, and the way life actually evolves, especially when you move away from rigid schedules and expectations.
When you learn Spanish, you learn that mañana means tomorrow. Mañana does not mean tomorrow. Mañana means someday. It means that it might happen sometime in the future. So that was like the biggest adjustment, because as an American, we're very into schedules and timing. No, like in Mexico, especially living in the smaller towns, you might run into somebody and talk to them for half an hour and then go to the appointment you're meant to have it.
Today, on Almost Local, the living abroad story of Tina Coleman. Let's start.
I am definitely a risk taker. I like to have adventure, excitement in my life, and I do things that are a little unpredictable. So, I like to travel and enjoy my life, and I love meeting people. So that's really my thing. I love meeting new people. So being in different countries is absolutely wonderful for me.
So you lived in multiple countries, but maybe we start from the very beginning. Where are you from originally? Where did you grow up?
I am originally from Des Moines, Iowa. It's the center of the heartland of the United States. So it is also the capital of the state of Iowa. And it's known for agricultural, farming, insurance, finance. And I had never lived on a farm until much later in my life. So yeah, it's very good for raising children. It's a pretty safe place. A little boring in my opinion. So I always knew I wanted to travel. And I am the only person in my family that travels internationally.
Okay.
So yeah.
So it didn't come out of a motivation of family, like parents traveling with you or anything, but rather
No.
an inside thing?
No, I had never been on a plane until I was 30. I didn't start traveling international until I was 45. We didn't even do vacations in my family. We went to funerals.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to funerals all over. Like, if we were remotely related to somebody, my mother drove us to all these different funerals. So that was really the only traveling we did.
Okay. Well, and how does it come then that at age 30 or 45 you start deciding this is the moment to start traveling around, and maybe before traveling and then why living abroad?
Well, actually, I lost both my parents right before I turned 40. And that really put me into a dark place for a while. And then I realized, like, if I don't start traveling now, when am I going to do it? We always like to think we have more time, we're going to live a very long life, but we don't really know. And so when you start losing people very suddenly in your life, it makes you reevaluate your life. And before my 45th birthday, I found a journal saying I want to go to Italy, Greece, and Egypt. And I was like, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So yeah, and right before my 45th, a week before my trip, I was rear-ended by a lady, an 89-year-old lady at a stoplight. And I didn't know if I was going to do the trip.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm really glad I did, because I absolutely love Italy. Barcelona was amazing too, but like Italy is such a special place.
I mean, I lived in two of the places that you said, so I can confirm.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's amazing.
Work-wise, I think I read that you were a message therapist.
I was a
Back in the
massage
day?
therapist for
Okay.
20 years, and I was also a spiritual teacher. Ironically, my first car accident, I was hit by a semi right after I moved from Iowa to teach in Missouri. And that actually got me into acupuncture, chiropractic, and massage therapy. So that
Okay.
kind of opened the door. And then the last car accident got me out of it. So it was kind of ironic.
So it
I
has
know.
been 2 car accidents. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And there was another one in between there, but the last one got me out of everything. I was like, oh my goodness.
Okay. Because it had like physical impediments, or like it
Yeah.
came with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 3 bulging discs in my neck. I had a triple whiplash. I had a concussion. So I did not think I was going to make that first trip. Literally, it was like a couple of days before, and I booked everything non-refundable. You know, yeah. 'cause it was cheaper, and so I wasn't sure I was gonna make it, and I am so glad that I did, because going on that
Cool.
trip completely changed my life and my perspective on everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to ask. Like, did this trip trigger the idea of then moving abroad? And when is the moment that you decide, oh, I'm leaving United States? Because I assume that from that trip you went back home at some point.
I did. Ironically, that trip was 3 weeks because I spent time in New York, Barcelona, and Italy. Because I was like, "I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to go to Italy again." You know, it was a dream, so I'm like, "I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to do it again." And I've been to Italy 3 times, since then, and it was really amazing because that trip really changed the trajectory, and I kinda always knew I wanted to travel. As I got older, I knew I wanted to live internationally, but like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that, like, that's so scary, and it's so expensive, and I don't know." As Americans, we're kind of programmed not to travel and not to be international and
Mm.
not to learn foreign languages. So it was like kind of like, oh, I don't know about this. But I actually started coming down to Mexico for dental work. And Mexico was not someplace I had actually planned to move to. I always thought, after my trip to Italy, I thought it was going to be Italy or maybe Asia. And during COVID, I was doing work as a funeral sales rep, and I was deeply unhappy with my life. And I was going on a birthday trip, and I was like, I'm going to move to Mexico. There was really no thought in it at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it easy? Because normally when you move like this, then the challenges come once you arrive to the country.
It was pretty easy. I actually spent 2.5 months traveling Mexico to kind of find my place.
Hmm.
And, it's funny because it's like once you find your place and you find other places and you kind of move around a little bit. But because Mexico is so close to the States, I think it was a little bit easier. But there definitely were challenges involved. I brought my 2 dogs down with me. I literally did not think that through all the way. I brought down 4 bags and 2 dogs. And most of that stuff was for my dogs.
Yeah. And
So, and I,
normally the most difficult part is moving the animals. Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
yeah,
The
yeah,
whole
exactly.
paperwork of moving animals around is a nightmare. Yeah.
It went pretty smoothly, but, like, getting them out of the airport, like, I did not think about that. I'm, like, trying to drag 4 bags and to haul 2 dogs through the airport. Luckily, it was a small airport. They were all kinda looking at me and kinda laughing, and I was just like, "I did not plan this well at all." So things like that happen, that you just don't think about the
Mm.
logistics of things, or things that are very easy in your own country are more complicated in a foreign country. Because and you understand this, Mexico and Italy both love paperwork and bureaucracy. So
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
I can imagine.
it's a little bit different. Doing something very simple, like, maybe changing an electric bill into your name, or getting mail, or recharging your phone can take all day sometimes.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is.
You always traveled solo? That's also like so that's it is in your core to do it on your own and then at your peace, I suppose, also and your own terms.
Exactly, but I realized from the very first trip, if I kept waiting for other people to join me, I would just keep waiting, and I wouldn't really do it. I had a friend, she was like, "Oh, I wanna go with you, I wanna go with you." And I'm like, "Okay, well, here's the information," and she just didn't book, so I went ahead and booked my stuff, and she still hasn't gone anywhere.
Okay.
It's, over 10 years later, and she still hasn't gone anywhere.
Mm.
And even though I've invited her multiple times down to Mexico, to Italy, on my trips, she just doesn't go. So if you keep waiting on other people, you're never going to do anything. So that's why I travel solo.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you have it clear, jump on it and that's it. No, you don't always. It's just like a stereotype that you put the
exactly.
companion into it always. I don't know, somehow. It's not
Ex-
always mandatory to be
No, it makes it
with
a little
someone.
more complicated because sometimes you don't want to do the same thing. So they want to travel differently than you do. Or, if they're not feeling so good. There's a lot more logistics. Whereas if you
Mm,
travel by yourself, you can change things. Like sometimes I'll meet people that, oh, you need to go here, or have you seen this town? And I just change it. Like I travel very openly and loosely.
nice. So I didn't ask actually, but where exactly are you in Mexico?
I am in a small town called San Pedro Cholula, Mexico. It is 2 hours south of Mexico City, about a half an hour away from Puebla. It is a
Okay,
small historical town. It's also very touristic. They have what they call a giant pyramid with a church on top of it. So that's really the draw here. And you used to be able to go underneath the pyramid and see things. The pyramid is mainly overgrown now, but like there's still the steps to it and some of the outlying structures and things. So it is very historical. It's also a place where they used to train all the holy men in from Mexico. They would come here and actually get trained. So it has like a very energetic draw to it, which I think is amazing. They also like the culture that goes way back, like they used to do human sacrifices here, and we also have an active volcano. We
Oh,
actually
wow.
have. Yeah, I can actually see the volcano, and it like puts off ash, but there's two others in the region as well. And so, yeah, so it makes life a little interesting. You're like, what's going on with the Papa today?
Sounds like a hot pot of a lot of things going on. Yeah.
I know. So it's really wonderful, but it's just like one of the magical towns. It's very European, very colorful. The people are wonderful. The food's great, and it's super easy to get to Mexico City or Puebla. So it's a really nice little hub.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't been like I've been to Mexico, but no, not specifically there. So next time I will drop by for
Yeah.
sure. I mean that makes sense. It sounds like a
Absolutely.
lovely place.
It is, it is, and Mexico has so many great towns. That's what makes it so difficult to live here. You're like, it has the beaches, the mountains, the cities, the little historical towns. Like it has everything, and the people are just absolutely wonderful. This and Mexico does have. It's so international. It definitely does have amazing food. Not just Mexican food, but international food. Like it's amazing.
How long have you been in Mexico now? More established, like
5 years now. Yeah,
oof. Okay.
I moved officially in 2021, traveled it for 2.5 months in 2020. And I've been to over 30 towns and cities in Mexico. So, and I've lived in multiple places. Of course, when I moved down, I'm like, I want to live at the beach and I want to live in a walking city and I want great architecture. Well, in
Mhm.
Mexico, you can get two of the three. You can get a walking city or the beach, or you can get great architecture and walking city, but you can't get all three. So I was
Okay.
originally living in a very small village on the coast, on the Pacific coast, on the very southern part of Mexico in Oaxaca. It's
Mhm.
called Zipolite. It is the only floating optional beach in Mexico.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was a lot of fun.
Nice. And what about adaptability? Because language, how did your life change when you arrived to Mexico? Let's put it like this.
I realized how bad my Spanish was. I actually realized that when I went to Barcelona on my first trip. Like I was so focused on going to Italy on my first trip. I tried to learn some Italian, didn't do well. I did not even think about learning Spanish. And so the first trip to Barcelona, like I realized I knew no Spanish. And even moving to Mexico, I tried, and my pronunciation is so bad. It is just so incredibly bad. Thank God I'm friendly. Google Translate is great. And then I also pantomime a lot. I learned para llevar, which is to go. So I'd be like, to go.
Gesturing, it's part of communication.
I know, well, especially in Italy. But yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
very friendly. I get by, I connect with people. And I find that if you're friendly, it goes a lot further than really knowing the language. So I just want to tell people, like, even if you don't know the language, don't be scared to travel. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it. I have been to a lot of different countries where I don't speak the language. I don't speak Italian or Greece or, Turkish or Egypt. I've been to all those countries and it always works out really well.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, communication is not only language based, so that's
No.
that's the reality. I wanted to ask you also from a professional perspective because I mean, yeah, you left after a car accident that impeded you to continue with your previous job, then you switched it for some time to a more administrative office thingy, but now you are like coaching, you are an author. Like when is all of this common in the equation? It's already in Mexico or it's still back in the US?
No, everything is online. Everything is online. So when I originally moved, I was renting out my house and
Mm-hmm.
then I ended up selling it. And now I've just reinvented myself with coaching and speaking and the book. So yeah, everything's a learning experience because I'm not a technology person. So
Okay.
that's definitely been interesting to build everything and to have the technology aspect of it. Yeah.
Nice. And the book, it's already published?
Yes, it is.
And
It is
since when?
December 30th. Yes, it's been a very long process. I originally had a publisher and that did not work out. So this year I decided to self-publish.
Uh-huh.
And so it is on Amazon and it's called 50 Fabulous and Fuckable, the Midlife Guide to Confidence, Reinvention, and Travel. So you can get it there. I'm also going to be I have courses available to go along with the book as well. And it's designed to inspire and empower women to travel and live their best life. And it's based off the transformation that I have personally had in my own life. So I know that if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Cool. Very nice. So, Tina, I would say we jump to the next section. It's a little bit like the fast reply. We enter a little bit more into these 5 years in Mexico and trying to get a fast quest segment, let's say like this. So every question should be around 40, 60 seconds to respond. I ask always the same 12 questions to everyone. So it's a nice way of comparing between countries. The first question that I have, it's cultural adjustment. One thing that it took you a while to adapt in Mexico, or
Obviously, there's the language that still hasn't clicked yet. So there's that. And it's just more a relaxed vibe. So when you learn Spanish, you learn that mañana means tomorrow. Mañana does not mean tomorrow. Mañana means someday. Okay. It means like maybe it's going to happen, maybe it's not. You're not really sure. So if you actually have someone come over to do work or to clean the house, they're like, oh, mañana. No, it does not mean tomorrow. It means that it might happen sometime in the future. So that was like the biggest adjustment because as an American, we're very into schedules and timing and like, if you make an appointment, it's going to happen at that time. No, like in Mexico, especially living in the smaller towns, you might run into somebody and talk to them for half an hour and then go to the appointment you're meant to happen. It's a lot more social and a little more laid back. I really think the motto of Mexico is relax, don't worry, tranquilo. They say that all the time, especially to Americans. They're like, relax, don't worry, no problem. Yeah. So as an American, you're like, but we're supposed to be doing this. You're like, no, it's okay. Yeah.
yeah, the layback.
Which is a great adjustment, trust
Yeah.
me.
Second one that I have, it's social life. How did you meet people, or how are you meeting people in Mexico right now?
Well, there's always a Facebook group, so that they have meetups through that. I tend to meet people just randomly, like either in stores or on the beach or on the street, because I am very friendly. So, and I like to make friends with business owners. I have a talent for that. So it's like, oh, what are you doing? And how can I help you with your business and things like that? So, yeah, so it's a little bit different. And there's always like you can go to yoga classes or spinning classes or the gym. When I was living in Hualchuco, I had a group of friends that were in their 50s and 60s that went to the gym. So I'm like, yes, I need to be going to the gym, which I need to start again. But yeah, they were amazing. So we would go and be at the gym every morning, and then do things together.
You touch upon the next one a little bit already, language, but I mean, you said that it didn't click yet, let's say like this, but can you get around Mexico like without speaking Spanish actually?
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people do speak English, and even if they don't speak it, they tend to understand it. But also, there's Google Translate. So, no matter what you were trying to do, you can usually have somebody help you. They're very friendly. And I found that, like in every country I've been to, people are very friendly. They want to help you. They want to, help you to get to where you're going. They're very interested in foreigners as well. So, I've always been met with, warmth and hospitality. So it makes it a lot easier. But yeah, no, my language pronunciation is just awful. And I do realize if I would have learned Spanish more going to Italy would have been easier because the languages are similar.
In languages tend to connect each other, let's say like this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The fourth one, it's cost of living on average, but also what it's cheap, what it's surprisingly expensive. How is the cost of living in Mexico right now?
Well, everything has gone up. I will say that everything all over the world has gone up since COVID and Airbnb took over the world. Like everything's gone up. So I would say what surprised me the most, like in Mexico City and also in Medellin, Colombia, because I was there for 6 months also, the rents have gotten very expensive, in my opinion, because I've been traveling in Mexico since probably 2018 or so. And everything was much, much lower then. So the cost of things has definitely gone up. The rent, going out, cappuccinos are a little more expensive. In Italy, you can go and get a cappuccino at the bar for like uh 120, 150 euros, right? Yeah.
It went up also. Like
Oh,
depends on yes, yes.
it depends on what
Unfortunately,
port you're in. Yeah. So and then here in Mexico, it's between $3 to $5 depending on where you're at. So everything's kind of gone up, unfortunately, but it's still cheaper than the U.S.
you talk about rents and you move around the country quite a lot. So how is
Mhm.
the process of finding apartments and finding a home?
Well, word of mouth is always the best. Like if you know someone that knows somebody, that's always the best way to get a good rent deal. And that's how I actually found my first apartment. We actually went knocking on doors and asking people if they had apartments for friends.
Really? Like
Yes, yes. That's always the best way, especially in Mexico. Like, you can talk to your barista or the people at the supermarket, be like, "Hey, do you know anybody that's got a place for rent?" And sometimes people will even approach you because, they know you're a foreigner. And then, of course, there's Airbnb and Facebook. Airbnbs are going to be more expensive, but they also have, like, in case the host cancels on you or something's not right, like, it's easier to get things fixed. Whereas if
Mm,
you just choose a bad place, like, you're kinda stuck with it on your own. But yeah, like, word of mouth is always the best, I think.
makes sense. Next one, it's living like a local. I know it's difficult to do, but what is the thing that you use for blending in between the Mexicans? Let's say like this.
Right. I actually do tend to live like a local, and I'm around a lot of locals more than expats. So it's like you go to the mercado, which is the market, like, and it's a big open market. You go there and you buy your fruits and vegetables, your meat. I walk a lot, which I love. So it makes it very easy. And I like to take the colectivos, especially in the smaller towns. And that can be like a van, or it can sometimes be a pickup truck with like a tarp over it. And you just get in the back and you pay your 10 pesos and you go to where you're going. So the first time I ever took a colectivo, I was terrified because I didn't know I was going from Cancun to Puerto Morales. Because someone's like, you gotta go. And I was leaving that day and I did not speak Spanish. First trip to Mexico, and I was like, I thought they were taking me directly to the heart of the town. They dropped me off on the side of the highway. And I was like, where am I going? I was so terrified. So you do have things like that happen. But luckily, I found some people and they're like, just stand on the side of the road and flag a taxi. They'll take you to where you're going. I was like, I didn't know that. So things like that do happen. And you're just like, oh my gosh. But everything always works out. It does. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
collectivos work like that, definitely.
I know. I love them though. They're so amazing.
What about work life? I know that you are like working online, but
Mhm.
maybe from connections or from your friends in Mexico, how is the work culture in Mexico?
I mean, depending on what you're doing, like there's cafes like I'm at right now, and it's a brand new cafe, very modern with great internet. And there's actually a lot of co-working spaces. So if you like co-working, they're all over Mexico. You can go there and work. So it makes it really easy. It's not hard at all. And you just find the connections, that you're looking for. So yeah. Um, I didn't work for most of the time I've been in Mexico. So that's kind of a new thing for me.
All right, let's jump then to the next one, which you touched already, the colectivos. Getting around, like transportation. How is the best way to travel? Is it colectivos or it's like with bus or?
It depends on what city you're in. So if you're in Mexico City, they have a great metro as well as buses. The buses are amazing. They have their own bus lane, which I love. So it makes it actually easier getting around Mexico City. But if you're in the smaller towns, it's going to be either Colectivo or Uber or a taxi. Taxis are very common. When I was living in Zapolite, you had to pay for a round trip if you go from one town to the next because the taxis are not allowed to pick up people towns. Yeah. It's kind of like it's kind of like the mafia in small towns where taxis. It really is. It is because you cannot because if you're slow in one town, you can't just hop over and pick up people from the next town. So you can only take that taxi from that town to the next town, and you're literally paying for a round trip. So that was kind of different. I was like, why is it so expensive? And it's about $10. And I'm like, it's 10 pesos if you take the colectivo, but going on a taxi, it's like 200 pesos. I'm like, it's not that far. It's like 10
Mm,
minutes. But that's why. So that was a little bit surprising. But in a lot of the towns, you can actually walk. A lot of expats do have cars. I like not having a car. I have had scooters. So
okay.
I like having a scooter, like to go to the beach or drive around locally. I just don't use it like really busy or big cities because that terrifies me. But yeah, I never thought I was going to be in my is riding a scooter in Mexico. So that has been like a big surprise.
So nice. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
a big motorbike user, so I like that also.
Mhm. It makes it
Next
way
one.
easier to get around and to
Yeah,
park and stuff. It makes
absolutely.
it so much easier.
It's
Otherwise, you're stuck in
especially
traffic.
parking. Like, come on,
I
like this
know.
is how many
It's
times do you lose
great.
with a car?
I
It's
know.
ridiculous.
It's crazy.
The next one, I don't know if you touch it or not. Hopefully not. But healthcare. How does the healthcare system works in Mexico?
It's really good actually, and people are always surprised by that. A lot of places in Mexico, they will actually have a doctor attached to a pharmacy. Obviously, they're trying to, push the pharmaceuticals, but it's like 50 pesos. And I have gone there and used them, which it's about $2.50, $3. Actually have an actual doctor examine you. And it's not like a complete exam, but like if you're going in because you have a cough or your stomach's upset, which is common in Mexico, there are
Yeah.
digestive issues
Spicy
here.
food.
No, it's the water. It's the
Ah,
water.
yeah. Okay.
The water's not good, so you can actually pick up parasites quite easily. So you have to be careful in some places. But yeah, so it's like I've had amazing results with the doctors, even in the little pharmaceutical stands. And then they have really great hospitals and things here. They have the public and the private. So you have options. But I found the healthcare to be amazing. And a friend of mine, her daughter, or not, I had a friend, her son was very sick in the US. He had something going on that they could never quite identify. He came down to Puebla, got him with a specialist. They're like, oh, it's because of your ear, it's because of this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And they fixed it like that. It was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. So the medical is very good. The dentists are very good too. I love, yeah, the dentists here in Mexico are amazing.
I mean, it's a common thing, not to do dental in Mexico if you come from the US, or
Um, a lot of Americans only come to Mexico for the resorts. They don't go
okay.
outside of the
Yeah, yeah.
resorts. I unfortunately do not have great teeth. I have great skin and hair, but not great teeth. And so the dental is so expensive in the States. I started coming down to Mexico because one of my friends mentioned that the dental work in Mexico is so much cheaper. And so I did a lot of research on that. And I've also done, they call it medical tourism. And so I actually, when I was in Turkey, in Istanbul, I actually got my eyes and Invisalign done in
Okay.
Turkey. So
Yeah.
medical tourism is a thing, and
Yeah.
it's really great because you can get high quality care in other countries,
Hmm.
and then you can also like sightsee and do other things too. So it's nice.
Nice. So I have three
Mhm.
more. The first
Okay,
one,
perfect.
it's the one that everyone hates, but bureaucracy. How is dealing with paperwork, visas, permits, and all of that?
Oh boy. Okay. So that's funny because I'm actually applying for my permanent residency on Wednesday. My technology skills are not great. So actually trying to even set up the appointment online was kind of challenging because they were telling me one site, it was actually like a different link to go to, and then trying to make sure you have all the paperwork and everything on your downloaded. So yeah, so keep your fingers crossed for me. I'm hoping to get permanent residency on Wednesday, but I don't know. And they also like tripled the rate from last year. But
Well,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was just like, what do you mean it's gone up like that much? Because I would expect maybe a little bit after the first year, but no, it's like triple. And I was like,
Okay.
boy, yeah. So there's surprises like that, and just like when I was in Turkey, I've had a temporary residency there also, and it was packed because people from the Ukraine and Russia and all over
Mm,
were trying to get residency. So actually Mexico has been a lot easier than that because even there you would make an appointment and then you'd wait for 3 hours to get seen, and you may or may not get seen by the right person. Yeah. And that's just part of living internationally and abroad, dealing with the visas and paperwork and make sure that you do have everything in order and that you put stuff in a safe place, which I'm not great with that either.
yeah.
Organization's not my thing. So yeah.
All right. Two more. The next one, it's the best and worst. What is the best thing about living in Mexico, and what is the worst thing about living in Mexico?
Okay. Okay. The best thing is definitely the food and the people. Like Mexicans are so friendly and hospitable and very caring people. And the food, the food's amazing. You can get any kind of food you want in Mexico. Even living in small towns, you can get amazing international food. When I was in Zapolite, there was a European bakery, there was Italian food, great pizza and pasta, crepes, sushi, everything. And it was a very small touristy town. And the worst thing about Mexico is the water. That is my biggest complaint is the water because the water is not drinkable.
Eh,
And unfortunately, you can get very sick from the water and it's also very hard on your skin. But I'm like, if that's my biggest complaint is the water, like life's pretty good.
yeah. I mean,
Whereas
you can avoid it, no? Let's say like this.
exactly. I mean, Italy has amazing water, and you can tell the difference in the quality of the food because the food in Italy is so good. Like the fresh food, like the tomatoes and everything, they're so fresh because of the water is so good. Yeah,
Mm,
you really notice the difference.
okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Last one, it's the top tip. If someone is planning to move to Mexico, what would you give us a one-line advice?
I would definitely recommend exploring different cities and towns to find your place because sometimes if you just read things online, it's gonna be different when you get there. I did a lot of research with a lot of different towns and, like, retirement places and expat places, and I would go there and I was like, I'm not feeling it.
Mm,
I'm just not feeling it." So the place I ended up was some place I'd never heard of,
okay.
yeah, and also look at a map and look at your geography because I wanted to, be in a beach town. Everyone's like, "Oh, Oaxaca, right?" Oaxaca is a state and also a city. There's Oaxaca
Mm.
City. So I ended up going to Oaxaca City, which is in the mountains. And I'm like, "Where are the beaches?" And they're like, "They're 8 hours that way."
Wow. Okay.
Looking at a map and knowing your geography is super important. Because things like that will happen to you because I did not look at a map. I'm geographically challenged also as well as technology challenged. So, things like that happen and you just kind of have to roll with it, You do. You just have to realize being in a different country, things are different. There's going to be surprises, there's going to be some setbacks. But just trying to maintain a good attitude and be friendly with people. That's really the best thing.
Nice. Perfect. Thank you so much for the overview on Mexico, Dina. That was amazing. I think the audience will love that. I will jump to the cultural mini game. I
Okay.
call it
Yeah.
like this, but at the end, it's just another way of formatting questions. To be honest, I prepared one that I called "Before and After Abroad." So I
Okay.
basically will mention you a topic, and then you can answer how it was for you before moving abroad and after living abroad for these 5 years that you've been in Mexico. The first point that I have is self-confidence.
Okay. My confidence has definitely gone up. Being able to navigate different countries, languages, cultures. Yeah, like you definitely gain a lot more confidence being able to travel. I'm a very nervous traveler even now. I get super anxiety going to the airports and things like that. Like I'm not okay until I'm on the plane. And so it's like knowing that I can go to basically any country, any city and I can be okay. Whereas before my first trip, I had to plan everything out. I had a place to stay, like, "Oh my gosh, do I have a place to sleep, and where am I gonna be?" And, like, super anxious about everything. Now I'm like, I'm gonna book a trip, I'll go." I might be actually booking my place where I'm gonna be at, like, while I'm at the airport or while I'm landing. I've literally done that before. I'm like, "I don't have a place to stay yet, and around, like, where am I gonna be?" Yeah.
Nice. Second one that I have, it's being fully yourself with other people.
Like I said, I'm a very friendly person, so it's really easy for me to connect to other people, to make those connections. And it's they're more curious about you. They're just as curious about you as you are about them. And so I think it's really easy to make those connections, and to just be open with people. It's really good. Obviously, there are things like maybe you don't want to be so open about, like your financials or what you're doing for work because sometimes in other cultures, the price of something goes up, you know? Because I do stand out, like, I'm sometimes paying higher prices than other people, but if they think that you have a lot more money than them, then the price can triple. Yeah, especially taxi rides. That can go way up.
Sounds, yeah, familiar.
Yeah.
The next one that I have, it's the relationship with aging. Has it changed?
It's really interesting because I find that there are so many amazing services abroad to help with that. Because as we do get older, like I don't consider myself old. Like I was terrified of turning 50, which is why I wrote the book. But like I find so many great services and healthcare practitioners and alternative therapies. Like there's great physical therapy, there's great facials, massages, workouts. Like there's so many great things that can help you as you're transitioning into a different stage of life. And it's actually a lot cheaper, more affordable, more convenient. Like there's physiotherapy places everywhere in Mexico. So it makes it really nice in case you do like injure yourself or have a neck issue or shoulder issue, because things like that do happen. So it makes it really easy and affordable, way
Nice.
more than in the States. So going to
Okay.
the States and trying to get acupuncture, it's like $150. Down here, it's like
Whoa.
500, 700 pesos. So around $30, $35 to get acupuncture. Yeah,
Okay.
from really good acupuncturists. Same with this physiotherapy. Like you can get really good physiotherapy for 20 or $30. Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
Next one that I have, it's taking risks. Has it changed?
I am definitely known for that. I will say that. Everybody thought I was crazy for moving to Mexico. They're like, "Oh my gosh, aren't you afraid of, the cartel? Like, oh my goodness, it's Mexico. It's so dangerous." And I'm like, I feel safer in Mexico than I do in the States because in the States we have everybody has guns.
Mm,
So we have like the mafia, the mob, the gangs, the terrorist attacks, the mass shootings, things like that. So I feel like it's riskier to stay in the States than it is to live abroad. In Mexico, yeah, there's the cartel and yeah, there's places you definitely don't want to go to. But like I don't feel as it's as risky as it is other countries.
mm.
As much as I love Italy, when I went there and went on a tour of the Vatican, paid tour of the Vatican, which is €100, they're like, "Oh, make sure you keep everything close to you because guess what? You can get robbed in the Vatican on a tour."
Yeah, pickpocketing, it's kind
I
of
know.
normal. Yes.
I know. So it's like I feel like sometimes being in Mexico is way safer and less riskier than other
Mm.
countries. But you have to be willing to take risks because if you don't, you're never going to live the life that you want to live. That's really the main takeaway because otherwise you're going to keep living a life you're not happy with. So and sometimes things do not turn out the way you planned or the way you thought, and you have to just kind of pivot and be like, okay, well this didn't work out, so let's go to plan B or plan C or plan D. Let's just do something different.
Cool. Last one for this round. Sense of freedom. Has it increased? Has it changed?
Absolutely. Like, freedom to me is one of the most important things. Everybody thinks if you're from America, you have a lot of freedom. And unfortunately, you don't. Mexico, you have a lot of freedom. They just do things differently here. And the motto of Mexico is ask for forgiveness, not permission. So, like, if there's something you want to get done, there's always a way to get it done. Sometimes you just have to pay a little extra to get things done, or to facilitate things. But usually, if there's something you want to get done, you can make it happen. But yeah, there's just such a sense of freedom. And Mexico, being a tourist country, it's very transient. Like, they are used to people coming and going. Whereas, like, you could be like, oh, I'm going to go, to this town. I went to San Cristobal. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be there for like a week, 10 days top. I end up staying like a month. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm going back to the place I was at. I don't know. And if it's like, oh yeah, that's no problem. Whereas in the States you cannot do that. Like if you say you're gonna be gone for a week, that's all you better be gone for. And like, oh my gosh, you're gonna go somewhere for a week. So there is definitely a different sense of freedom. It's more relaxed. People are used to like the ebb and flow of things. Yeah, it's really amazing. It is. So yeah,
Sounds cool.
it is.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a little bit about the book, but do you have any project that you're working on right now? I mean, you are coaching, so
Mhm.
maybe which kind of coaching do you do? Where can people find you and contact you if they need it? Of course, then we will put the links in the description so they don't need to really memorize everything. But in general, what is your work coaching? What is the book about a little bit if you want to explain a little bit more about it, and where can people find you?
Absolutely. I'm very passionate about my book. It's called 50 Fabulous and Fuckable. And I wrote it because I was terrified of turning 50. I was absolutely terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, what happens when you turn 50? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, do you die? If you have gray hair, you're considered old and over the hill. So I was terrified. So that's why I wrote the book because I radically transformed my life very quickly. And so I want to be able to help other women to change and to travel. I think traveling is so incredibly important, especially if you haven't done it, because it can radically change your life. And so I'm super passionate about that. I do coaching. I have courses that help you go through the transformation that I personally have gone through. And then my thing that I'm currently working on is speaking. I actually want to be doing virtual speaking as well as motivational speaking. So that's something that I'm working on right now. And I'm on 3 different speaking platforms because I want to help people radically change their life. I want them to know if I can go from being an alcoholic and super depressed to living internationally, living my best life, traveling the world, like you can do it too. You can do anything you want to do because there's always hope. You can always make those changes. It may not be easy. There's definitely some adjustments and challenges along the way, but it's so incredibly worth it. Because so many people are so scared to make changes, to leave a safe job, to leave a relationship they're not happy in, starting over. Like we all have those fears and doubts. So
Mm,
I really want to inspire people on a much bigger scale to live the life that they want. Because when you turn 50, it's like a whole new world. Now it's a whole new chapter of your life. It's next stage of your life. And so your life isn't ending, it's just beginning. That's really the thing. Like 50 is when things start really getting good. So I want to help people and be empowered and inspired by that and realize that their life isn't over, it's just starting, and you can still do whatever you want. So I want to do that on a much bigger scale. So public speaking is something that I am really getting into.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yes. And my
yeah,
website is Tina
exactly.
B. Coleman. Yes. It's a fairly new website. So it's Tina
Okay,
B. Coleman, just like my name, .com.
perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, in any way, like the links will be also for the book and for every resource, and even social media will be in
Great.
the description of the episode. So any person can find it easily. As always, give some love to Tina's work and check out the book and buy a copy through Amazon and give a review and say that you're coming from the podcast. That's also always a nice way to
Yes.
connect.
Yes.
Tina, has been incredible. Thank you so much for your time
Uh,
and for sharing your story, sharing your vision on life in Mexico, and opening also like the being open to talk about how is life there, but also open to talk about your own experience and this life change that it came 5 years ago, and
yeah.
it sounds really incredible. Thank you so much for being here
Thank you
today.
so much for having me. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for your time and your patience. I appreciate it.
Thank you. For all the audience, as always, if you like this episode and you want to stay tuned, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and also like give some love, as I said already, to the social media from both Expat Experts and Tina and her book. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and see you in the next episode.